Good evening and welcome to The Square. As we do every last Wednesday of the month, we discuss issues that you, our viewers, put forward on the show to discuss. So this is the 16th edition of Burning Issues. And tonight we have a couple of topics that we're going to tackle. The first of them is long pre-trial detentions. We're also going to look at the sports landscape in Rwanda, a brief review of the sports landscape in Rwanda, as well as look at Rwanda's positioning to be a financial hub, not only for the region, but also the continent. My name is Dan Mpisi, host of The Square. As always, I'm joined by The Square resident panelists. And with us, as always, I'm happy to welcome Charles Haba, resident panelist of The Square. Great to have you on the show, Charles.
Samia, Dana, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Also on the show is Berna Namata, resident panelist of The Square. Great to have you on the edition.
Thank you, Dana.
And as we always do, we kick off with midweek highlights from The Square resident panelists. I think that they've caught their attention. Charles, is there anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, earlier today, saddened by the death of football icon Diego Maradona. Talent, amazing skill. There is an unwritten taboo that you don't say bad things about people who have passed. But that said, I think there are a lot of things that you can learn from Diego Maradona and around lifestyle choices and lifestyle decisions that we make. Great sportsmen, generally speaking, tend to live longer. He's died at a tender age of 60, and it's largely about lifestyle choices. He got cardiac arrest, but he's struggled a bit with his wealth over time. I don't know too many professional sportsmen who have become the age of obese, even in their playing life, because when he joined Napoli, he had actually put on quite considerable weight. Out of passion and patriotism, he was retained in Boca Juniors, despite the fact that he could hardly run. If you compare global icons, Muhammad Ali got Alzheimer and he died at 74. Pele is still alive, he's 80 plus. So I think really it's a unique story. If it's a car accident, it's almost acceptable. If it's health and lifestyle, it's almost inexcusable. But may his soul rest in peace.
Indeed,
yeah,
indeed, and great points, Charles, to make about lifestyle choices. Brenna, any midweek highlights?
It's the economy. We have the numbers from the second quarter. While they don't look as good, I think if you compare with the region, if you compare with the continent, it's not as bad. But I think they speak to the urgent need to revive the economy because we are seeing some countries going into recession. We are lucky we're not in going into recession, and I think East African countries are generally doing better. But more work needs to be done to get people back to work, get activities going. We've had some sectors that have been closed for quite some time now, and it's difficult because we are already seeing hospitality is taking longer than expected to recover. So you can imagine for the sectors that remain closed.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. So we're here to discuss issues that you viewers put together on every Burning Issues edition that we have every last Wednesday of the month. And the first topic that we're going to discuss, I know we've wanted to tackle it on The Square for a couple of months now, but the pre-trial detentions is something that has come to the media, has come to the fore. And, a special committee was set up during this judicial week that started on Monday. And this special committee has been set up and tasked with looking into the issue of long correctional facility detentions preceding trials of suspects. And we want to see, this committee wants to see how this can be remedied in the long term. And according to the Chief Justice, Dr. Faustin Hezirjayo, this was, part of the judicial week. And my question to you, Charles, and my question to you, Berna, with governments looking into how this can be remedied, the high cases, rising cases of long detentions preceding trials taking up over the years, especially this year. What are your thoughts on how the judicial system can improve to do away with unnecessary long detentions that even last year's preceding suspects' trials? And Charles, I'll kick off with you.
This is not a Rwandan problem. Generally speaking, whenever you have a thin line between politics and judiciary and the judiciary, so basically the executive arm and the judiciary arm, or for that matter the legislative arm and the judiciary arm, not really exercising that textbook definition of arm's length, you will have challenges. But more importantly is that in the Rwandan context, where it's very, very easy to make genuinely justifiable reasons for immediately arresting and detaining people, it can hold water. And and I follow a lot of speeches. I've been following a lot of speeches on the Judicial Week over the last several years. And one thing that keeps recurring, and that's whether the judicial year is, sorry, I didn't mean judicial week, I meant beginning of the judicial year and closure of the judicial year. And the speeches that I always made for the last several years, year in, year out, never do you ever miss out mention of corruption within the judiciary. Now, if people in the executive can make comments around trust of the judiciary, then it says so much about everybody along the judicial value chain trusting the judiciary itself, from the time a person is arrested to the time Bana commits an offense or against me or my company against hers, and us trusting the system. So the moment the trust of the judiciary is in doubt, the direct impact most of the time globally would be to say, what other ways can we find a way of carrying on our own judicial remedy against one situation or another? And that plays down to it boils down to situations where you see in certain jurisdictions there will be mob justice. They will ban buildings. They will ban pedophiles. They will put people who have raped on fire in public. They will ban thieves.
And it's because they have no trust in the
They have little faith in the judicial system. But in the Rwandan context, we have not gone to those extremes. However, the extremes we have gone to is for the executive to openly ridicule the judiciary, in public, and that says a lot about the trust in the system. Now, of course, that's one side of looking at it, but the other thing, the other scenario really is that not all cases. Not all judges are corrupt or will have corrupt tendencies, or prosecutors and lawyers for that matter. However, sometimes you will find, and in certain jurisdictions, and I'm sure ours is not an angel, that you want to send a very loud statement out there that please do not mess up with the integrity of an institution, or you're directly or indirectly extremely hard-handed, so that you send a very loud statement.
And there are people who will be caught up in the system.
There will be people who will be caught up in the system, and I'm glad that when it comes from a person in the Chief Justice, it's a very loud statement. And I tend to believe that also COVID has taught us very, very good lessons. Simple issues like the frequency with which detainees can appear in court, again because of social distancing and health and what have you. We are rethinking how is it necessary is it necessary that everybody must be detained?
Absolutely.
Yes, but I'll give two other scenarios. I mean, if you carefully look at the COVID-19 related cases that have been happening in the last few days, you can see that many of them are from detention centers.
Exactly.
Yes, and then you see, why should you necessarily keep people there? Overcrowd them. And then the other one is around feeding them, because feeding and health. Some have particular medical needs or particular feeding needs, and in the event that because of COVID you are unable to feed them, then it creates another problem. On their health and what have you. Then you find the government is creating an unnecessarily heavy burden on itself. But that said, it's if I think our judicial system has also come of age. If the Chief Justice can wake up in the morning and say, we acknowledge we have a problem, that is a very, very positive, big stride in the right direction. A few weeks ago, the Ministry of Justice, the Minister of Justice came on record and said, no, we have to avoid shootings, and see the way, relook into the way police uses excessive force. So I think by virtue of the fact that we internally appraise ourselves and say this is something we can do better, it's a step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I can't agree with you more. It was actually refreshing to see the Chief Justice saying that,
yes.
Knowing this has been an issue and it has really peaked this year, especially with the pandemic. This is not something that we really need regarding long trial detentions and casting a larger burden on the system. Brenna, do you want to weigh in on what Charles said?
I was reflecting on it, and I wasn't sure whether I had anything useful to say, because these are legal matters. Laws are written, and they're legal experts who should ideally be debating this issue from an informed point of view. I haven't seen a position paper by the Rwanda Bar Association on this issue. And I'm throwing it out there. If we are increasingly seeing citizens that are concerned about pre-trial detention, I think the Bar Association can do better. Give us a position paper on this issue. Because we have, quite a vibrant Bar Association, and I think it would be useful if they give us direction, as the legal experts. Otherwise, most of us will just give an opinion which may not necessarily be useful. That said, I think that everything goes back to the independence of the judiciary and why it is so important that the judiciary demonstrates that it is independent. Because as a country, if you're selling, for instance, Rwanda as an investment destination, competitive economy, everything goes back to the other sectors. So if I'm going to invest, I'll be looking at where can I get justice? So matters of, as far as I'm concerned, matters of the judiciary have to be looked at very carefully, because it's not just about people in and out, but also the bigger picture of how that affects, your competitiveness and also your ability to attract foreign capital. The other issue, I think, is around something that Charlie alluded to, mob justice. We see that a lot in the region, and this is, of course, for many years. People have tried the courts, and for one reason or another, they've lost faith in the judicial system. Now, if we don't pay attention, I can tell you that it will happen.
In Rwanda?
Yes, it will happen. And we are seeing pockets of that. So we have to take a longer strategic look at some of these issues, the implications of these issues in the long term. Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely. I would like us to go to our next topic, and thank you very much, Charles and Brenna. Very pertinent words. I hope our policy makers are listening to these sort of conversations that are taking place, and the remedies can be made in the judiciary and the judicial system, especially when it comes to this particular aspect of, pre-trial detentions for people that last even up to, over a year, pending suspects' trials. And please keep your tweets coming on our Twitter platform using hashtag #TheSquareRW. We are going to read them later on. And the second topic we're going to discuss tonight is something I know we discussed in season 1, and it is to do with the sports landscape in Rwanda. 2 years later, when we first discussed this when we started the Square, we were looking at the sports landscape in Rwanda, and I remember it was kind of a dismal conversation that we had, Charles, if you remember. And basically, at the moment, I think things have picked up. Rwanda is getting ready to host a Basketball African League in a week, basically in December, with the tournament's inaugural season consisting of 12 clubs from 12 different countries. So 12 different countries are going to be in the country next month, which is in a week. And then also in addition to this, other than basketball, you look at the cycling industry in terms of sports. We had Moise Mugisha, who won the first Rwandan to win the annual Grand Prix, Chantal Biya, in 2020. He won it this Sunday. So my question to you is, looking at the sports landscape, how do we keep this momentum going to enable sportsmen and women to thrive and reach their highest potential without the intrigues, the games of intrigue and in-house, sort of arguments and whatnot from the sports leadership, as well as bureaucracies that have plagued this industry. And I'm talking about, whether it comes to soccer, whether it comes to cycling. What are your thoughts on how the sports landscape in Rwanda can keep this momentum going to really ensure that Rwandan sportswomen and men really achieve their true potential? And Varna, I'll kick off with you.
Oh, go ahead.
But I know you're a very healthy person. You work out.
Different things. Those are two different things.
I know.
I'm interested in sports, but just like any other ordinary person.
Yeah.
But when you look at our sports clubs, in my view, they tend to be more political than anything else, which I think undermines their potential, And this is because every time there's an issue, you will have politicians getting involved and trying to resolve issues around sports clubs. Yet it should be maybe the fans and somebody else, but not, the politics, yes, getting in between the sports. So from a layman's point of view, I think that is an issue. If we have the biggest football club, quite popular, and the only way they resolve their issues is having, some government agent. Yes, I think.
I don't know, a Rwanda governance board weighed in on this matter, a couple of months ago this year.
Yeah, I think
and I agree with you. That should not be the case.
Yeah, I think it sends a different message. I mean, again, they're experts on these issues, but I think if it's sports, it should be sports. Yeah, you have the fans really take the lead, because in absence of that, then you have sports organizations or fan clubs becoming more political and growing the team. So I think we need to see a bit of organic growth within the sports organizations, having people who are genuinely interested in the game and taking the leadership and growing the game, because sometimes maybe you're good in a certain field and then you're dragged into sports leadership, and that does not really grow the game. So I feel that we still have, we could do better, especially around sports clubs. That said, I think Rwanda is among the few countries in the region that have a plan for sports. A few months ago, I had a friend who was asking me that, what is happening in Rwanda with basketball? And this is because they had seen the news, they've seen the big leagues coming. And I said, well, that is just basketball. You should also find out what's happening with cycling, So there's so much going on, But my worry is there has to be a way, there has to be a transition, and it's a good and difficult problem because you have government giving a push to most of these sports clubs, but then at what point does government exit and you really see, people who are in the business of sports running the sports? I think we need to get there. We need to get to move away from sports being associated with politicians, so that it's a game and there are funds and they look forward to the players, and you have personalities, the coaches, who are really followed for the skill and not because, of their political affiliations. So there's potential, there's so much progress being made, there's a lot of investment going on, but I think there has to be a transition.
Absolutely. Less politics, more sports.
Yes.
In a nutshell. Charles, you're a sportsman.
I know.
He was the head of the Rwanda cricket. I know you're an avid tennis player. I know you're at Nehru Retirement Tennis Club almost every week. I know that's your club. So I know you have a lot to weigh in on this particular question. Your thoughts?
I want to take off from what Bana said around passion. And unfortunately, you have people who get into sports leadership without passion. And it can never work. We are not going to reinvent the wheel in Rwanda. It will never work. If you do not have passion when it comes to sports administration,
forget about it.
Forget about it. Because however good a sports an administrator you are, a business leader, because when it comes to sport, it's very different. If you love media, or I love business, or I'm a trader and what have you, I'll wake up every morning 7 days a week to put on my TV and watch Barcelona play Real Madrid. And whenever I have an opportunity, I'll put on a Barcelona shirt. Now that Diego Maradona has passed on, I will put on Napoli and Barcelona and Argentina and what have you. So the levels of passion when it comes to sport are unequivocal and compared to none. If you look at all our media houses, print, radio, TV, all the other online YouTubers, most of their content that is consumed is around sport. So the levels of passion, when it comes to the actual playing and the fans and what have you, are not necessarily replicated when it comes to the leadership. And that is one of the challenges that we have. Whereas when it comes to sponsorship, what they they put their money following that passion, in pursuit of that passion. So I think that's one of the gaps that is there. That you have people in position of responsibility that have either been asked to go there, or that are there for their own personal benefits. They have not been asked, but they know, if I go and run that club, there is some money I can get from gate collections, from merchandising, and so on and so forth. So I think that is one of the challenges. Now, related to that is governance. Now, and I'm very glad, whereas some people have pointed fingers at Rwanda Governance Board coming on board, even to go into club affairs. Ideally, you would be thinking they would go into federation affairs, because that's the national body, or ministerial or National Olympic Committee, but I think it's very, very important that they go even to club affairs, because that's where it begins. You have people who collect money from districts, from individuals, and they think that they have no reason to be accountable to those monies collected because they have put in their own monies that are probably, quite often sometimes more. Right? And I'll give you my own example. When I used to run the cricket board, I used to take a salary advance that I would pay over 12 months to sponsor kids to go for a bowling academy or a batting academy across the region. Now, it would be very easy for me to say, who are you to come and check how I'm running my affairs, yet I'm putting in my own personal money. But that was a small body. When you go to big organizations like the Rayon Sports and what have you, where people draw money out of their businesses in their tens of millions. This morning I was listening to one of the local radio stations, and Olivier of Virunga Volcano Transport Company, he's gotten money from his own business, which is Volcano Transport, his associate business, which is Hyundai, to put into his club, which is Mukura. Now, what moral authority will Bana and Diana have to come and tell him, how are you using your money? So he has to have a system in place that puts him in check, and it boils down to governance. And I want to digress a little bit and talk about business. And take a regional giant like Nakumat, which was a family-owned business. It collapsed purely because of governance. Yet, it was serving the entire sector, the lenders, the suppliers, the landlords, the employees, eventually all suffered purely because of governance. So the point really I'm raising is that I'm glad that Rwanda Governance Board has come on board, and I think it can't be emphasized any further that in our sports administration, one of the biggest issues that we really need to address is predominantly around governance. Now, the third thing I want to raise is really around the government investments, and I will not blame government at all in picking interest in sports and sports administration. Reason being, the biggest investor in sports in this country is government.
It's true.
Infrastructure is just one small thing that you can imagine, but there are a lot of these sports bodies that you look around that would never exist if government was not there. Many of them even have their offices. They cannot even afford to pay their staff, the staff who run the federation. The government has to pay their own staff that run the federation. Now, imagine the Kigali Arena, imagine the Petit Stade, imagine the tennis courts at either at IPRC or wherever. The volume of government investment. The cricket stadium in Gahanga, the land was given for free by government, and all the taxes related to the project were paid for by government. So the role of government, the role of government is extremely enormous. I think they've woken up a little bit too late. If government was really playing its role as they should be, would be at another level. Unfortunately, there's a thin line, and there's a thin line because the international bodies, you'll go to FIFA, you'll go to the IOC, you'll go to the International Cricket Council, you'll go to International Tennis Federation, all the global bodies. The moment they perceive government interference in a sport, they will move away. But again, it's extremely important that we define what that government intervention is. Government can easily intervene in something with an arm's length distance, and brings me to my last point, on my last intervention on this one, and running sport as a business. If government can look at sport as a business, the role of government in the private sector is really to provide an enabling environment, route to market, access to fiscal incentives and invest in these industrial parks and all these other initiatives. And I think that's the same logic that should be around sport, that put in place an enabling environment where sport is looked at as a business. There is no reason, I know for a fact, that corporates, when they want to invest, for argument's sake, in the MTN Marathon, and I'm just giving it as an example, they will go to Minispoc to say, how can we be involved in the MTN Marathon? You'd imagine that ideally speaking, they'll just walk into the Rwanda Athletics Federation and say,
exactly.
let's do this.
Yeah.
So, and so on and so forth. And so, in as long as we don't look at sport and sports as a business, and we don't address our own governance issues, we will be simply, the army have a term called chapamgui. You're just marching in one spot like that. I want to see, the government is very, very big on MICE tourism. And if you look at the entire value chain of MICE tourism, from the airline to the hotels to entertainment to the sports shops, conference people and whatever. But let's look at MICE from a sports perspective, because that's what we're talking about now. How is it going to pay off? Government is expanding Petit Stade tomorrow. I will not be too shocked if tomorrow they say, let's get rid of Mijina. It's an integral part of Petit Stade and the whole stadium environment and Kigali Arena. Now, so this whole song of the square that we keep talking of, institutional coordination, yeah? So I think that whole holistic approach, I'm very happy. The three of us, about a month ago, 2 months ago, we had a glass of wine at one of the best spots around that Remera area. And that's a couple of $100,000 of investment in an entertainment spot.
And around huge sports facilities.
Yes, around a huge
Exactly.
sports facility.
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of thing that we should be discussing. The government has put in so much money in sports infrastructure. Then a lot more needs to be done around the enabling environment, the ecosystem.
Absolutely.
As you say, yeah.
I definitely think the ecosystem, and not just only when it comes to sports, even when it comes to various investments by government, whether it's the golf club, whether it's the Petit Stade, as you're saying, there's a general ecosystem where these facilities can stand alone.
Yes.
Where do the fans go? Where is there an element of coexisting with, hospitality and entertainment and that sort of thing. So I think that's a very valid point. And Brenda and Chelsea, I really hear you when you keep on saying government has done a lot, but it's time sports really, as an industry landscape in this country, stands on its own. And you have passionately driven sports leaders, sports club, and a sort of autonomy from really deep, in-depth sort of government engagement or interference, as you say, Charles. I know it's necessary because government has really put up these infrastructures, has more or less been coddling, I think, the sports industry for a long time. But if we're looking into the future, I
want to say something around the golf club, and I'm sure since you brought it up, if RSSB had not come in to invest in such a world-class facility, neither the members nor probably government, which is central government, which is the biggest investor in sports infrastructure, would have probably even prioritized it. Now we have an amazing facility there. How do we ensure that it is sustainable in the long run? Our membership base, the golfing community is relatively small. I hang with golfers. I'm an ardent 19th holer. I play tennis at the golf club, and my children and wife play golf. But you look at the numbers and the size of the facility and the entire ecosystem around it. So how are we going to ensure that it's sustainable? I'm sure they have been thinking about it. When I engage my friends who are very involved in golf, there's a whole huge plan. but I think it will have to be supported by a few other things. You know, for instance, if you woke up today in the morning and said, you know, if you're going to bring in your golf kit, it should be tax exempt. Your clubs and things like that. Why shouldn't you have a duty-free Golf Pro shop at Kigali Golf Club? You know,
things like that.
Yeah. I think initiatives like that to support the sustainability of these amazing pieces of infrastructure would be very handy.
Actually, golfers don't need duty-free. Golfers should be able to pay.
Because of the stereotype that it's a rich man's game anyway.
I disagree with you, Bana, because it's the rule of numbers, and our number base is still very small. If you're talking about Rayon Sport and APR, it's a different game. Our numbers around golf are very small. There are tens of millions of dollars that have been sunk into the Kigali Golf Club.
That's not commensurate with the numbers.
But exactly.
No. I mean,
but Brenna, very quickly,
I take a different view. I take a different view because golf, by its nature, is not a mass sport. So for me,
it's an elite sport.
Yes, it's an elite. And
let's compare Rwanda with Rwanda.
And Charlie, we can have people come from Abu Dhabi or anywhere else come and play golf here. You know, those people don't need duty free. I'll tell you who needs some tax incentives. You know, get the football, get basketball. You know, so many young people are interested in basketball. They need this.
And those are career oriented.
I disagree with you, and
I want to. Unfortunately, we don't have time to,
Yes.
keep the banter going on between you two. I'd like to read out some of the tweets that are coming in regarding the topics that we have tonight. And if you can go to our screens, the first tweet we have is coming in from Viateur, and he says that we need a strong sports industry like the rest of our vibrant industries, i.e., tourism, doing business in Rwanda. And Viateur says that Rwanda is a young population, so by far sports is more than possible, basing on the strength we do have. The next tweet comes in from Frank Chigenza, and if you can have that on the screens as well. Frank states that there are many lessons Ferwafa can learn from the Rwanda Cycling Federation. We need to invest in soccer through skills development academies. It's not a pep talk that will make a Mavubi win. Absolutely. I know for a fact there's been lots of football academies across the country, and a lot of investment has been put into soccer. But again, like we've just been talking about, it all boils down as well to the leadership of these clubs, and this is something that really needs to be...
And it takes time.
It takes time, and it's something that needs to be remedied.
I want to make a comment about what Frank said.
Okay.
He says that the football Ferwafa should learn from cycling. I don't know whether this is in relation to the leadership.
I know.
Yeah,
I would assume it's to do with the leadership.
he says many lessons Ferwafa should learn from the Rwanda Cycling Federation. Invest in soccer through skills development academies. It's not pep talk that will make Amavubi win. Now, the success of Amavubi in relation to the sports academies is not necessarily a straight line. At the same time, cycling has also had its lowdowns, its own issues, and there is no single sports body in this country that has not had its issues. I think it would be sort of downplaying the importance or the milestones that that football has done. But the bigger point I wanted to raise is that however high golf, tennis, cricket, cycling, athletics will rise, Rwandan sports arena will predominantly be judged by the success of our football.
Yeah.
Yes.
And very briefly.
But guys, we need to move from the sports topic. So, but Brenna, over to you.
Yeah, very briefly. I just feel that we can't expect results to just happen. First of all, it takes time.
Yes.
We need to have school championships that grow.
Which we have.
They exist,
vibrant,
but I think they just need to expect them. Yes.
Make them vibrant, grow the national championships across the sport. Yeah, and I think eventually get there. But if you just have pockets of it, then it will take us longer.
It shouldn't be a silo mentality across all the different sports, for sure. So the next topic is to do with financial positioning, and this is something that, you know, has been, Rwanda has been positioning itself for quite a number of years now. And, you know, last week we discussed fintech, we discussed the financial technical landscape in Rwanda with Norbert Haguma, and it was really interesting understanding what really needs to be done to push forward Rwanda in terms of fintech, in terms of financial services. And now we are here on this last topic for tonight talking about financial hub positioning. So we all know that Rwanda is, you know, positioning itself, as seen with the recently established Kigali International Finance Center. The center is designed to promote and inward investment and the creation of thousands of highly skilled financial sector jobs for the benefit of Rwanda as well as the African continent. We also saw the Rwanda Finance Limited, the parent company of KIFC, putting in place a 7-member board. Very exciting board members coming with lots of experience and clout and you know, a mindset to really push forward this strategy we have to position ourselves as a financial hub in the region as well as the continent. I think you know that we had, I think the former Credit Suisse boss as the chairman of this particular board. So very quickly, Berna, should I start with you regarding this? What are your aspects? So what are your expectations on some key aspects and opportunities you look forward to regarding the future of Rwanda's financial landscape, as well as its future as a regional and continental financial hub?
It's exciting.
It really does sound exciting.
Yeah.
You see, you know, the media stories that are coming around because of this.
Yeah, I also think they have a big PR budget, which is good.
I wouldn't be surprised, but that's good though.
Yeah. But I think it's exciting, but it's also a challenge.
It's daunting.
Yeah,
sure.
Because the biggest hurdle that they would have had, which is political will, they have it. They have a lot of, you know, goodwill from government. So what remains is actually to just get the job done, really, you know, because most investors or whoever is trying to do something will struggle with political will. So if the political will is there and there's direction,
that's a tick on the first box.
You have your
You're done.
Yeah. But again, finance is just about it's investment. It's attracting wealth, you know, and wealthy people, investors, are not people that just invest on sentiments or based on a video that looks so good. You know, they will be looking at the fundamentals, and I think that is the hard work that the center has to focus on. Supports wealth creation and generation. For instance, if you're looking at managing wealth, we have the critical pool of fund managers, you know, the pool of fund managers. Do we have what investment options are there? This year we've seen, I must say it is not a paid ad, but we've seen Bank of Kigali really taking a lead on these fronts, yes. With several initiatives around investment. Yes. So we need to see more of that, you know, if we're going to become a hub. So I feel that it's just getting started, and I'm sure the experts at the Finance Center know what they need, but it cannot exist just on its own. You know, investment, attracting investment and wealth takes more than just having, you know, a few individuals. You know, people will be looking at the ratios, the return on investment. What is the track record, for instance, across the different sectors? Where is the money? You know, two, if you look at the competitiveness of the economy, we have done well with business registration, the fight against corruption, but we still have issues around the cost of doing business.
That's true.
We still have challenges around finding skilled labor. So, yeah, it's exciting, but it's not as easy because, I mean, Rwanda is now competing on a global scale in terms of attracting capital. So Rwanda will be competing with the UK, competing with London. You're competing with Mauritius, you know. So you have to really work very hard,
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
at the hard infrastructure, you know, yeah.
I know, you know, just soon after KFC was launched, they partnered with Morocco's Casablanca Finance City, which is a good step in the right direction in terms of having more access to a huge network of financial, you know, enterprises. So, but you're absolutely right, Brenna. It's great, it's exciting. The future looks bright when it comes to this financial hub positioning, but the hard work is really daunting. And this mentions that, these aspects that you mentioned are really crucial, the cost of doing business, you know, skilled labor.
Even actually the independence of the judiciary
And
that
then
we
it
were
comes
talking
back
about.
to-
Yes, the independence of the
Absolutely.
judiciary.
It
because,
does weigh in on
you know,
this,
yeah,
yes.
investors will be looking at the commercial courts,
Yes,
you know.
yes.
How do the commercial courts operate? Are they independent? Including even the media, you know. Right now we still have a long way to go around financial business reporting.
Absolutely.
You know, ideally we need to have a vibrant business press that reviews markets, that is able to track
and provides analysis. Not
yes,
just reporting.
analysis. Yes, absolutely.
Reporting,
You know,
yes.
looking at the Rwanda Stock Exchange Index, being able to explain what's happening with the different companies. Yeah, so it's such a wide ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Charles, very quickly over to you.
First of all, I must state that I am a bit conflicted in as far as this topic is concerned.
Why?
I have a corporate heart of an entity that is delivering the infrastructure.
Also, we should be asking you.
We should put you on the spot.
Yes.
No.
put it
Again,
as what we're doing.
as I said, that's a corporate heart, and
No, carry
it will
on,
take you a
carry
bit. Yeah, so I'll be a bit uncomfortable to discuss this particular topic, especially from an infrastructure delivery perspective. But that said, I think it's a step in the right direction. We do have. I agree totally with Bananot. I don't oftenly do. I agree with her that it's a tall order to compete with the likes of Mauritius and what have you. You know, you don't wake up one week and say, you know, we've set up a board and it has amazing people, and you got 2 blue ticks on the backdrop of a COVID economy that's recovering, and then on the backdrop of our credit rating that has not dropped. And then the subsequent week, you have a screaming headline that you're seizing private people's property. Yeah, so we sort of, when we're selling this beautiful African dream and amazing Rwanda business
Remarkable
destination,
Rwanda.
everything has to be rhyming.
Absolutely.
Rhyming. So
Absolutely.
I think those are some of the areas that we can correct. The other thing is that I have been one very, very strong advocate around government expenditure in private investments. And I'll give you a few practical examples. And I know Bana is extremely passionate about our capital markets. So if you look at the volume of transactions of government expenditure in the private space, from the airlines, from the Radisson Blu and Convention Center, from the Marriotts, and then from government-related entities, whether it is central government or local governments in again, areas where I'm very comfortable in, that's specifically real estate. So you talk about the likes of the Kivu Serena, you talk the likes of the Epic, you talk the likes of the Mantis in Kivu Marina Bay in Rusizi, and so on and so forth. So we do have a fantastic opportunity to say, if we pooled all these assets, all these businesses, and pool them into a real estate investment trust, an IREIT, an investment REIT, and listed it on the stock market. Please remember that we are already struggling with the number of products that are available on the Rwanda Stock Exchange. Government has a fabulous opportunity to say that we are putting onto the stock exchange assets that are already earning an income, and therefore inadvertently making our capital markets more vibrant. So, and again, government has very, very carefully thought this, that some of these assets are actually run by international brands. So it would be very, very easy for people to easily cherry pick on them and say this is good, especially because we have not defaulted on any of our sovereign obligations.
Exactly.
So I think we are, but we have a fantastic opportunity to build our capital markets. Yes.
So we have come to the end of the show, but I'd just like to read the last tweet that we have regarding the topic we had on sports. And if we can just quickly have this on our screen, this tweet is from Anita Kabitende, and Anita asks, speaking of many sports clubs' sustainable businesses, can someone tell me where one can get great merchandise for any of our prominent clubs, or even perhaps some of our Tour du Rwanda winners' swag? We literally have no minute left, Charles. Can you answer this in less than a second?
Yeah, I think that's one of our biggest problems. We did discuss this 2 shows ago on around Brand Rwanda.
Exactly.
I had an Australian client who was here last week, and a Zimbabwean guy, and we could not get Rwandan rugby jerseys.
This is something we need
Yeah,
to
so
work on.
Brand Rwanda is missing out on this. I'm glad Anita has pointed out on it. It's a huge opportunity that we're missing out on.
Last tweet for tonight is from Richard Godira, a big fan of the Square, so I definitely have to do due justice and read this tweet very quickly. He says, the major challenges that Rwanda Finance Center faces in setting Rwanda as a financial hub is one of high finance costs, lack of skills in the capital market, investor aftercare issues, and of course, financial markets understanding and awareness. Our Rwanda Stock Exchange is quiet most of the time. Great point, Richard. I really hope these are things that are going to be taken in consideration for people who are listening, as well as key stakeholders involved in the different fields, institutions that we talked about tonight. Thank you for watching. Keep the conversation going using hashtag #TheSquareRW. I would like to thank our partners, Uzi Collections and Bourbon Coffee, for always supporting The Square. Have a good night and see you again next week. Bye.